The music from the luxury restaurant spilled softly onto the sidewalk, a warm contrast to the cold winter evening. When Ethan Caldwell noticed her, in a city filled with flashing lights, expensive coats, and people rushing past without looking down, a disabled homeless girl sat alone near a bus stop, smiling at a small cupcake balanced carefully on her lap. A single candle flickered in the wind. She clapped gently for herself, her joy quiet and contained, as if she had learned long ago not to take up too much space in the world. Something in that moment stopped Ethan completely. For the first time in years, the billionaire who owned half the skyline forgot where he was supposed to be and felt a heaviness settle in his chest that no amount of money had ever lifted. Before the story continues, if you believe in kindness, quiet compassion, and second chances that come when no one is watching, please like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, leave a comment, and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps stories like this reach hearts that may be hurting in silence. Ethan Caldwell was known across the United States as a self-made billionaire, a man who turned a small tech startup into an empire. His face appeared on magazine covers. His quotes were shared at business conferences, and his schedule was packed from dawn until long after dark. Yet despite the success, his life felt hollow. He lived alone in a penthouse that echoed at night, ate meals prepared by chefs he never spoke to, and filled his days with meetings that blurred together. Charity checks were written by assistants, donations automated, and empathy reduced to numbers on a spreadsheet. Somewhere along the way, helping people had become abstract, distant, and safe. That evening, Ethan was supposed to attend a private celebration for one of his company's biggest deals. The restaurant behind him was filled with laughter, crystal glasses, and people congratulating him for another victory. But his attention remained fixed on the girl outside. She sat in a worn wheelchair, one leg thinner than the other, wrapped in a jacket too large for her frame. Her hair was unevenly cut, and her shoes were mismatched. Still, her eyes shone with a kind of happiness that felt painfully rare. Ethan watched as she carefully made a wish, closed her eyes, and blew out the candle. No one applauded. No one leaned down to ask her name. Pedestrians walked past as if she were invisible. Something broke inside him then, a crack formed by years of ignoring moments like this. He realized he couldn't remember the last time he had celebrated anything alone, and yet here she was, doing exactly that with more grace than he had ever managed. Her name, he would later learn, was Grace Miller. She was 17 years old and had been homeless for nearly 3 years. A car accident had taken her parents when she was younger, and a series of overwhelmed foster homes had taught her not to expect permanence. A spinal injury from the same accident left her partially disabled, limiting her mobility and making steady work nearly impossible. When the system failed her, she ended up on the streets, surviving through shelters when she could and kindness from strangers when she was lucky. That night, Ethan didn't walk away. He stood there longer than he should have, ignoring the buzzing phone in his pocket. He didn't rush forward either. He simply observed, allowing himself to feel uncomfortable, guilty, and present all at once. It was the first honest emotion he had felt in years. Over the following days, Ethan couldn't shake the image of Grace and her small celebration. It followed him into boardrooms, lingered during interviews, and resurfaced in the quiet moments before sleep. He began asking questions he had avoided for a long time. When had he last truly seen someone? When had he last helped without expecting recognition? His success suddenly felt loud and empty compared to the quiet strength of a girl celebrating her birthday with nothing but a cupcake and a wish. Ethan used his resources differently this time, not through foundations or press releases, but through presence. He returned to the same street, not once, but many times. He learned Grace's routine from a distance, respecting her space, watching how she navigated a world that rarely slowed down for her. He noticed how she shared food with others who had even less, how she thanked people sincerely for small gestures, how she smiled even on days when the cold was unbearable. Change did not happen overnight. Ethan struggled with doubt, unsure if he was helping for the right reasons or simply trying to ease his own conscience. Grace struggled too, suspicious of intentions hardened by disappointment, and used the promises that vanished as quickly as they appeared. Trust, for both of them, came slowly. As weeks passed, Ethan began to understand that stunning the world did not mean grand gestures in front of cameras. It meant consistency. It meant showing up. He arranged medical evaluations without fanfare, ensured Grace had access to physical therapy, and quietly covered costs that would have crushed her completely. He found safe housing designed for accessibility, not luxury, and made sure it was close to public transport and community support. He listened to her fears, her dreams of studying art, and her frustration of being seen only as a burden or a charity case. For the first time, Ethan allowed someone to see him without his title. Grace didn't care about his wealth. She cared about whether he kept his word. That simple expectation humbled him more than any negotiation ever had. He found himself changing too, canceling unnecessary meetings, walking more, listening more, and feeling less alone than he had in years. The story eventually surfaced, not because Ethan wanted it to, but because kindness leaves traces. A nurse spoke about an anonymous donor. A shelter worker mentioned a quiet benefactor. A journalist connected the dots. When the public learned what Ethan had done, they expected extravagance. Instead, they found something far more unsettling and inspiring. They found patience, humility, and sustained care. People were stunned not because a billionaire helped a homeless girl, but because he didn't turn it into a spectacle. He didn't disappear after the headlines faded. Grace graduated from a community program, began selling her artwork, and started mentoring other disabled youth navigating homelessness. Ethan attended her first small exhibition quietly, standing in the back, hands in his pockets, smiling in a way no business success had ever inspired. Just before the ending, take a moment to comment below and share what the story made you feel. Your words might remind someone that kindness still exists in unexpected places. Grace never stopped celebrating the small things. Each year, she still lit a single candle, not to remember where she had been, but to honor how far she had come. Ethan learned that night on the sidewalk that wealth could build empires, but compassion built meaning. And in noticing one disabled homeless girl celebrating alone, he didn't just change her life. He finally found his own.